What did you learn in the middle of the pandemic where you were trying to launch and accelerate decisioning IT?
I think at that point in my life, I was so dedicated to the company being successful because the why was there. And I didn't care what it took for us to get that off the ground. We had to do it.
I'm Jerome Dwight, entrepreneur, investor, and business leader. Each week, I speak to a challenger, a leader rewriting the rules, redefining industries, and shaping the future of business in our rapidly changing world. Today's guest, Rosa Hoffman, is a trailblazing CEO. As a female leader in a male-dominated auto finance industry and an early AI adopter, she's transformed the industry with bold innovation and resilience. I'm excited to share our conversation with you, so let's get to it. Welcome, Rosa Hoffman.
Thank you, Jerome, for having me here.
All right, so today, Rosa and I go back almost a decade now, and I watched Rosa's career just blossom, and she's been quite a trailblazer in automotive. So your business is quite unique because you bring technology, financing to automotive, which is generally a very entrenched industry, and you're very much a disruptor. Tell me, what does Decisioning IT do? You guys founded the company, you're one of the co-founders, CEO. So in a nutshell, what's the vision and values behind Decisioning IT?
So when we decided to create this product that we actually have, it's called SAM, it's a smart application manager, our goal was to get more consumers to get pre-qualified online. Everybody knows that that's kind of where the industry has gone. Like, we want to do more things online, digital, let people start their process and then finish. But what we found was that the online process was broken because unless you were like a super prime customer, you weren't really getting the support you needed. So a non-prime customer, for example, if they're applying for credit online, a lot of chances they're getting this auto reject. It's going then to the dealership, and the dealer doesn't even do anything with them. And so we've actually been playing around with artificial intelligence for over 8 years before it was like the buzzword. Like, to the point, I remember that one of our advisors was like, years ago, he's like, you know what, you guys should stop using the word artificial intelligence. I'm like, we're not, because we are actually doing that. So we're going to keep it. And like, oh, it's a buzzword. I'm like, it's not for us because it's real. And so our goal was that we would take this criteria that these customers were filling out online, the application, and we would use artificial intelligence to determine which lenders in Canada would actually be the best lender for that customer without touching their credit score. And so our analysis is very in-depth. We always tell the dealer, like, why that lender would pick them, what that deal structure looks like, some of the criteria that's necessary in order to get that deal pre-qualified. And the goal was really just, one, create more transparency in the market. You see a lot of times where people are just always submitting to one lender, and they do that for their own reasons, but is it always in the best interest of the customer? So transparency was a really big one. Being able to kind of close the gap of giving that online solution that is really needed in the industry for prime, non-prime, for all consumers. And then, of course, just developing the technology to get more advanced and get to a point where we can be at 99% accuracy. And so those are kind of some of the reasons we did that.
That's amazing, because I met you about 7 to 8 years ago when you guys were talking about AI.
Yeah.
And I agree, AI was not a thing back then, and you guys had the foresight to say AI will improve the credit rating process and shrink it down to seconds and minutes. Having been a sort of a venture investor in many automotive platforms, I think one of the biggest challenges for a consumer and why deals fall apart when they're on the verge of buying a car is financing, right?
Yes.
And there's millions of deals that fall apart every year because of financing. And it's really interesting to me that you guys saw that as something of a gap in the industry, and you look to solve that, right? So tell me about your personal experiences on how you got to a point where you said there's a problem here in the industry between the financing of a vehicle and the consumer getting into a vehicle and driving away happy. And how did you come about decisioning IT that could solve this problem?
So my background has been in automotive.
Yeah.
I was a director and business development for one of the largest groups here in Canada. And then eventually I started working in the startup space. So I was an advisor for these startup companies in automotive. And I love that. I love the switch from going like full automotive to like auto tech. And I actually met my co-founder in that time frame, and he had built this system for his own dealerships. And it was a very, intense, I call it a CRM, and it did all of this. It could, decision a credit application. It was literally an F&I manager, but on a digital standpoint, but it still needed a human being. And so as we worked together, the goal of me being an advisor for him at that time was to help him commercialize this product. Was there a need? Was there a fit? What partnerships do we need in order to actually go into the market? And we did it. And so we did it, and we looked at what the market was saying, and I'm like, listen, it's not working. The market can't take it. It's too much work. It's too advanced. And then we got hit with COVID. And so when COVID happened, that's when a lot of things shifted. And so he and I ended up deciding to actually join forces and create this company. So Decisioning IT is how that was all formed. And then I told him at that time that because of COVID, the biggest need right now was to do online. Right? Everybody was really focused on online. So we had to shrink this really sophisticated system and just give these little pieces that we knew the dealers loved online. And so that's how our product was actually born. It was a little bit of innovation. It was a lot of market research, but it was also the fact that the market changed so much, so fast, and we had to pivot. And so we did. We pivoted and we launched it last year in August. And it's been going really great. Feedback's been good. We get all of the data, so we know how we're doing as a supplier to our dealers. And I think it's been doing well.
That's awesome. There's something to be said about founders, CEOs launching a business in the middle of COVID.
Oh my gosh.
And even at Boomerang, the company I co-founded with my co-founder, it was right in the middle of the pandemic. And there's a certain level of risk-taking that's on another level when you launch a business in the middle of one of the biggest pandemic the world has ever seen. So kudos to you. I think a decade from now, we're going to look back at businesses that were launched and built in the pandemic as the gold standard for entrepreneurship. So tell me, what did you learn in the middle of the pandemic where you were trying to launch and accelerate Decisioning IT?
I would say that I think at that point in my life, I was so dedicated to the company being successful because at the core of everything, I believed truly that this was a solution that we needed. Like, we needed it. And I was so tired of hearing about digital strategies and digital retailing and how this is a standard of how we're going to do things moving forward. And it's like, I love that, but what about the other consumers that aren't getting that service? And so I think for me, like, the why was there. And I didn't care what it took for us to get that off the ground. We had to do it. And so we did. We sacrificed a lot. We went through a lot of growing pains in that time frame, but the why was there. And I think that's important for anyone who's starting any company or anything in life. Like, the why matters.
That's amazing to hear that. Now, we have a lot of entrepreneurs watch this channel. A lot of them are in their first year of startup. Some of them are in their 10th year. What are some things that you would like to share with them on sort of the lessons learned? We talked earlier about the need to think big, to think of the bigger opportunity, the focus, the drive, the resilience. Maybe talk to us a little bit about what you've learned along the way, and clearly, with some scars to prove it. So
year one is actually fun. Year one is like, you know what I mean? Like, fun. You're like, oh my God, this is going to be good. Definitely join as many incubators as you can. I think that's really important. You actually learn from experts and you learn what not to do and what to do. You know, there's nothing wrong with that piece. I would also say that one of the biggest elements I've learned in business in general is that 100% of zero is literally zero. And there will be people that help you in the beginning. Don't forget those people. Don't forget those advisors, those investors. They helped you get where you are. Greed is not going to get you anywhere. The more support, the more help you have, you will grow faster and you will grow. And that, again, it goes back to the why. Why are you doing this? Is it for money or is it for a passion and for a real product to grow and make a difference in the world? I don't know. I think surrounding yourself with the right people is really important too. Build your network, build your advisors. Advisors are really important. I started off with some really great advisors when we started, and I still have them to this day. I'll pick up the phone and I'll call them, and I like that. It's like that being able to bounce things off of each other. Be prepared to get burnt out. We've talked about that.
I mean, you're
gonna be burnt out. That's gonna happen. But you know what? Enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think you should enjoy it. But those are pieces I wish someone else had said to me too.
Yeah. I want to double click on burnout because burnout is something that's very real, especially in startup culture, tech culture, where everything moves fast, and especially for a CEO, co-founder, leader, you feel like you're pulled in 100 different directions. Every day there's a fire.
Yep.
So how did you realize that burnout was a thing and you've got to manage it? And you know, what are some of the techniques and strategies you've used in your own personal walk?
So I think my body is what knew burnout was a thing. Like my brain never did. Even to this day, like I can be sick. Like I'll remember I ended up getting these like nodes in my vocal cords, and my doctor's like, 1 month you can't talk. I'm like, okay, not happening.
That's not happening.
Right? But it was my body telling me, like, you need to slow down. Like, you need to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you're not good for anybody. And so I do think you get to that point where your body will just tell you, like, you're exhausted, you're getting sick all the time, you don't have energy, and you're just pushing. You need to slow down. So, like, that's a big piece there. In terms of how I got over burnout, that took a long time, Jerome. Like, it wasn't something that happened immediately. I think I just started learning how to recover from burnout and how to handle it. And a big piece of it is just not taking everything so seriously. Like, I could be dead tomorrow. Like, let's just be honest. I'm not going to stress out about this one situation. I'm going to ask for help where I need it. I'm going to look at everything in a different lens. And that's really important to me. It's actually my 20-year-old kid is one who says this all the time. Like, it's not that deep. And I've taken that to heart, where it's like, this is not that deep.
Right.
If a client wants to cancel, I'll talk to them. And if they say, no, I don't want it, I'm like, no problem. Like, frankly, I don't really want to have clients that don't want to use our system because it's not going to be a great experience for them. So it's not that deep. Where I think maybe, 7 years ago, I would have been like, what do you mean you want to cancel? No, like, it's just, things just shift. Life changes for you.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of figure that out a little earlier on and just stay focused on the end goal, that these things are normal. All of this stuff is going to happen, but it's just not that deep. You might be able to keep your sanity throughout it. Yeah,
I love the growth that we all as founders, go through every time we start a business. So I want to shift on. You talked about your kids. I was amazed when I found out you have 5 children.
A lot of people seem to be.
And you have 5 kids, and I know you're a great mom, and you also run these amazing businesses, and you're on social media. You've got tons of followers listening to you for advice on skincare and a whole bunch of other ventures. But talk to me about how you keep balance. How do you make time for family while also chasing down all of these obviously successful dreams?
Time blocking is really important. So like I know for me, like decisioning IT is not just a 9 to 5, but it is. You know, when I wake up in the morning, I drop my daughter off, and then I'm at the office. So decisioning IT is literally my 9 to 5 plus. And then I usually spend a few hours on the weekend creating content, and then I'll spend an hour or two just editing, and then I kind of create everything I need for the week, and everything's just kind of like on autopilot. With the family, I'm there, right? It's like I come home from work, I'm cooking, I clean, I'll play, I'll do what I need to do. Am I exhausted many days? Yeah, for sure, I really am. But it was finding a balance for me. And I think for me, being in automotive for so many years, for pretty much my entire career, I realized that when I came into the industry, like I was still very much like a girl. You know, like I loved getting dressed up. I loved that element of being very feminine and being a girl. But I think very quickly into, you know, working in the industry, I realized that there was no room for me to be me and be a boss in a sense. And I hate that word boss, but just having to have some kind of authority in an industry. And so I started shifting, you know, I started becoming really masculine, and I started like having to overcompensate because I was a female, and that became exhausting. That was where I started experiencing a lot of burnout.
Because you're not yourself.
Because you're not yourself, and you think that's yourself in a way, but it's really not. Like, I mean, for me personally, as a female, like I want to feel like a female. I really want to feel feminine, I should say, because that's important for me, and I think that's where I feel safe as a human being. And so when I started the social media piece, it was literally just for fun. It was some friends of mine that were like, listen, you do all these wild things to your face. Like I won't do filler, I don't do Botox, but I was that person that would do Morpheus Aid or all of these other lasers out there. I loved it. And so it's like, just put it online. Tell us what you're using, tell us what you bought, and that way you're not having to tell all of us at the same time. So I started that. I'm like, all right, like, okay, fine. You know, it took me a little bit of time, and I wasn't comfortable. I only posted products. I wouldn't like show my face. And then eventually, I think one time I did. And the feedback was really crazy. It was like, people were really nice. And when I say feedback, I'm saying maybe there was like 400 views. And like, leave it to social media to make you feel like 400 views isn't a lot, because 400 views or 400 people in a room listening to me, that's a lot. Right? And then the feedback was great. Like, people are like, oh my God, I love you, you're so funny. And that was nice. I'm like, oh, these people are really nice. And so I just kind of continued doing that. Creating content, being a little bit more me, and every year, every month, every day, I'm evolving with that process. It changed my life. Honestly, it did. It changed my life. I started really dedicating time to self-care. And I know people are like, self-care? Self-care is not just like going for your run or, you know, doing your skincare. It's actually like when you start caring about yourself.
Wow.
Right?
Powerful.
It really is. And for me, that was a big piece where it's like, I started caring about my environment, and I started looking at like how people online were so eager and quick to like a post, make a comment, and then there were people in my real life who wouldn't support me. You know, and I'm like, you know what, this is kind of messed up. So I started making these really small micro changes in my life where I focused more on me. I really took away a lot of that negativity. I became more comfortable being myself, being that feminine person I was. I have really curly hair, so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wear my curly hair to work, because I was so insecure. I didn't want to. I didn't think that I would be taken serious if I had curly hair. And it all just changed, because you know what? Like, what I look like, what I dress, how my hair is, doesn't change what I'm capable of. And so that really helped me grow as a person. And it has really pushed into the business side of the company too. So it's been a really beautiful journey. Like, I have to admit, I've been loving it.
Yeah, I think a lot of these lessons are going to be really impactful, especially for young female entrepreneurs who are really pushing into male-dominated industries, certainly in tech. You spent most of your career in one of the most male-dominated industries, which is automotive and e-commerce and automotive. You've probably dealt with a number of challenges and barriers that you've had to deal with. And on this show, we talk about the people that defy the odds. And, when I thought about you, I said, I want to hear about some of those moments where you were discounted heavily because you're a female in a very male-dominated industry. I would love to hear about some of those stories.
I don't really want to. I don't want to say that I don't want to talk about that because that's not what it is. I can't really recall a time where things were discounted because I was a female, but I can absolutely remember the disrespect that I encountered as a female. And it's really interesting because I have talked about that before where I'm just like, my daughter's 20. If I ever heard that like she was going through that in a workplace, it wouldn't go well for her boss. Right. And so when I think about everything that I went through being a female in this industry, and not everybody's like that, but you will catch these people who can be incredibly sexist, incredibly disrespectful. It was very challenging. Like it was really hard to just, stay above it. And weirdly enough, this is gonna sound messed up, and I really hope women don't come after me here, but a lot of the times it was women. Many of the times it was women. If you're attractive, if you're smart, that's a problem. You must be doing something, right? It's not about you having a brain, it's you've done something. That was really hard, I think, especially being young, like when you're in your 20s and you're just really trying to get going and you're really eager and you're willing to do really anything. Like you take abuse, you'll do whatever you can just to keep going. And then you have like your female, you're supposed to be your tribe and they're kind of working against you. That was challenging. And I never experienced that again. Like I think by the time I hit my 30s, I just stopped caring. I didn't really care as a female anymore. It's like, you know what? I mean, I know what I'm doing. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. Think what you want. You're not going to change, right? Whatever I can sit here and try to convince you, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you still want to believe it, you're going to. So, and that's really an important piece because it is hard for women. It's really hard for women in those environments. But I find that sometimes women make it harder for women. And it's just like, just be nice. Like, let's just be nice. Let's just be friends. We can all get along and we should help each other. And we talk about like automotive. We talk about tech being very male-dominated industries. But even in those industries, the hardest ones I dealt with were female. Were female. And we talk about female empowerment and women supporting women. And I mean, I stand for that. I want to see women grow. I want to see women go beyond where I am. I mean, I love that idea, but not everybody actually feels that way. And that's something that we as a whole, we as women have to work on.
Wow, that's great. And we're kind of winding down the podcast and want to talk to you about the future, okay? We talked about earlier about you've been working with AI before AI was even, widely used as it is today. Where do you see AI going for consumer finance, in general, decision making? Where do you see AI going from your standpoint?
I think we're already seeing it. I mean, how many times do you get an email and you know it's AI, right? I think it's going to get to a point where it's going to be terrifying to live in a world with AI because you won't know what's real and what's not real. So that's where that fine medium is that there's so many great things that AI can do, like decision a credit application without touching your credit score and giving you that information. Doing a lot of that manual input that maybe you may not want to do. There's areas where I think AI will do amazing, and we'll see it continue to take a manual process and automate it, or take certain things and just simplify that, if that makes sense. And then we're going to see it also do very terrifying things. I think you may end up seeing AI versions of yourself. And that's what you do. Like, you're training your AI bots to talk like you, to write like you, to know everything about you. Like, I don't know, like there's so many different AIs out there. And I actually do this just for fun, but every day I feed my AI a whole bunch of information about me. Now it can literally talk like me. It's insanity. So imagine when they can talk. Imagine when they can create videos of you and move. Like it could be scary.
It is a game
right?
changer.
It could be scary too.
Yeah.
But at the same time, think about what that could do for social media, right? Like just push it in, like, hey, this is what I want to create this week. Here are the products. Here's the stuff. You've got my images. You can just turn me and do whatever you want.
Right.
Right? Like, so there's good and bad.
Yeah. And what's next for Rosa as you look out into the future?
Oh, Rosa is going to be living in Portugal, going to a beach now. I mean, that's a dream. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I used to do that. I used to do that 5-year planning, sometimes the 1-year plan, and I've just become more relaxed where it's like, I'm just going with the flow. And I believe that that's the best way to live because you want to be agile and you don't want to be like a rock. You want to be able to just move as you please. And I think, things are going well as they are. And I actually look forward to what's going to happen in the next 5 years. But hopefully Decision IT is going to be in a few countries by then. And that we should be hopefully in every dealership in Canada. And we'll see what else happens.
Well done. Well, congratulations on all the success.
Thank you.
And the successful path to evolving Rosa 2.0
Yes.
as you've found more balance, found more purpose. It's been an inspiration to me and to all of us, so thank you for sharing your story. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.